On December 13th, 2022, the U.S. Department of Energy held a press conference declaring that in 10 years, they aim to supply unlimited clean energy for all Americans. How? By harnessing the same phenomenon that powers the stars, nuclear fusion. But as Judy Greenwald, Executive Director of the Nuclear Innovation Alliance of April 2023 explains, this goal is not realistic because it fails to consider the importance of the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, or ITER, an international and intensely collaborative fusion project. As a massive project decades in the making, ITER has garnered substantial media attention, largely because of its role as a symbol of international unity in the fight to establish clean energy. Greenwald argues that before we can make tangible progress in fusion, we need to finish building ITER. Failure to do so would prove that the international community's face of unity is only a facade. So let's analyze fusion and its symbolic role in geopolitics by first examining the historical context and current state of international collaboration and competition in fusion, before finally drawing some implications. Because with our urgent need for clean energy, those in power want to help, for all the wrong reasons. When analyzing international cooperation in fusion, the historical context is essential. We can divide this history into two key phases, one of competition and one of attempted collaboration. First, according to a 1987 analysis by physics historian Paul Foreman, at first, Cold War competition between the West and USSR skyrocketed fusion development. Then President Ronald Reagan and Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher took the scene. With such neoliberal girl bosses in power, economic tensions with the USSR shifted from militaristic to ideological. As a Stanford University study of April 2021 finds, in a Reaganomic effort, the US and UK left energy research to the private sector, who then followed the money to oil and gas. With minimized government support, fusion fell out of style, no longer driven by competition with the USSR. But all hope was not lost. Just as the tension shifted, so did our era into our phase of attempted collaboration. According to ITER policy officer Michael Klessen's 2020 book on the project's history, Reagan and Gorbachev first proposed the idea in 1983. They claimed that ITER would prove that the US, EU, and Russia could set aside their differences in the name of science. They were proven wrong. Thanks to a number of factors, including financial hesitance and conflict over where to build the machine, the final design was not finished until 2001. Since then, ITER has onboarded other members, such as South Korea, India, and China. Yet progress remains slow. From the beginning, fusion development has been fueled by competition. And while collaboration is terrific in theory, it has been more prevalent in word than in action. Now, with this historical context in mind, let's explore the modern state of nuclear politics to show that not much has changed. ITER is a key case study in this competition-collaboration dynamic in two key ways: its rhetoric about itself and member nations' actual intentions with the project. Now, first, ITER's rhetoric about itself is uplifting in a way that approaches idealistic. For example, Politico of December 20th, 2022 interviewed Chief ITER engineer Alain Bécoulet, and he reveals that after Russia invaded Ukraine, even though many members questioned their involvement in the project, Russia continues to play a key role. Bécoulet highlights that this reveals the power of ITER's mission: international cooperation in pursuit of a global good, even in the face of political conflict. And this kind of unifying rhetoric is commonplace from ITER, as long as it's convenient. It's hard to ignore a war with massive international attention. Yet as a member like China commits countless human rights violations, ITER remains silent, disrobing their timidity and idealism, as well as their Eurocentrism. ITER's rhetoric about itself is encouraging, but for how long can they bottle up international tensions? And second, while ITER displays itself as a beacon of collaborative hope, some members only consider the project a means to assert technological superiority. For example, Dr. Scott Su, fusion coordinator for the US Department of Energy, told CBS on October 10, 2023, that the race to fusion is also a race to global leadership. And America aims to solidify its status as a technological powerhouse by taking the lead in ITER. Yet Dr. Su adds that America's focus is on maintaining private interest in fusion, gaining a competitive stance in the technology while still upholding Reaganomic values. In other words, the US's nuclear priorities are not about maintaining healthy collaboration among nations. They're about maintaining the US's global hegemony. The current state of fusion development shows that ITER may be a project designed to bring the world clean energy, but that is far from many member nations' primary motivations. And this should come as little surprise, given our historical reluctance in fusion collaboration. And today's facade of cooperation holds two key implications: for fusion's global economic future and for developing countries' research. Now first, competitive emphasis on fusion has opened the floodgates for private startups worldwide to try their hand at turning this energy into profit. One ambitious startup is the Seattle-based Helion, who promises to have a power plant built in the next 5 years. But experts are skeptical. As Ian Chapman of the UK Atomic Energy Authority of June 1st, 2023 explains, there are just too many technical challenges to substantiate these promises. Rather, these startups may be nothing more than a fleeting corporate trend. And Helion has attracted huge investors, including Microsoft and OpenAI. So, at least for now, there's a lot of money in saving the world. Limited, genuine international collaboration, paired with profiteering efforts, paint a challenging picture for the future of fusion energy, leaving us to question whether the financial appeal of fusion will last long enough to create meaningful change before the next cash cow appears. And it's exploitative trends like these that make it critical to address our second implication: the involvement of developing nations in fusion research for a price. In a personal interview with Dr. Adele Wright, professor of nuclear engineering at the University of Wisconsin in November of 2023, she notes that the developing world, which often lacks research capital, is becoming more involved in energy research. For example, China has been funding research in Namibia to learn how to use abundant local lithium deposits for energy storage. And this shows just how gallant and leaderly China is. At least that's what China.org says. Reuters of October 23, 2023 shows that Namibia has seen a boost in research capital, yet China has been exploiting their resources and siphoning their precious lithium in a move of neo-colonialism. Dr. Wright argues that when ITER comes online, we will soon see similar collaborations form around fusion, with the same benefits and the same drawbacks. We can only hope that as powerful countries supposedly support and collaborate with developing nations, that they guarantee their hard-earned share of fusion energy. Because, let's face it, they need it the most. Today, we've examined international competition and collaboration in fusion energy. After establishing historical context, examining the current state, and drawing implications for the geopolitics of fusion, we find that even though there is so much hope for our energy needs in fusion research, many actors only seek their own prosperity. So the next time we hear of a lofty goal like the Department of Energy's, we must remember that the motivations may not be what they seem.